The Winnipeg Jets are an interesting team because in the case of Utah, you brought up in the mix watch. I've been waiting to use this term so much for the Winnipeg Jets. Last year, famously, they got really good in the middle of the season. They were like, oh, they're going to win the Central. Everybody's excited about the Jets. A lot of people were saying, hey, watch out. They might be frauds. They get to the postseason and turn into an absolute pumpkin. Allow at least 5 goals every game in a gentleman's sweep versus Colorado in the first round. So no matter what happens to this team this year, if they're good, whatever, are they always kind of going to be on pumpkin watch?
I think so, yeah. Like, I think that this is like one of those, not to the degree, obviously, of like the Toronto Maple Leafs, where you're like, during games 1 through 82, you're like, okay, who fucking cares? Like, even if you're first in the division, who fucking cares?
Doesn't matter. You're going to lose.
Doesn't matter. You're going to lose in the playoffs. Yeah. Like, I don't know if we're like fully there with the Jets, but like if their best piece, which is always like vaulted them into got to take them seriously, like air in Connor Hellebuyck, had a fucking horrendous playoff series last year.
Scary.
Like really, really bad. If that's like on the table, why would we take them seriously?
Yeah. Do you remember last year during that series where we had to kind of slowly come to grips with the fact, like, they're giving up so many chances. Oh my God, they're so horrible. They're leaving them out to dry. Blah, blah. And at some point, we're like,
well, maybe it's just
he's letting in goals, man.
Yeah.
Like, you hate to do the like need a save there thing because famously you always need a save, but that was a kind of need a save there series because it didn't seem like the chances were going to stop.
Yeah, like when we did our postmortem, we were like, okay, he's not the only guy to blame, but he is definitely to blame.
Kind of on the list,
yeah.
Which he is now beginning. He and Mark Scheifele famously are beginning identical 7 times $8.5 million cap hit contracts, which at the time excited about. Now, I'll be honest, still excited about. What else were you gonna do?
Yeah,
you gotta keep guys. You're Winnipeg. You gotta keep guys.
I mean, look at the list of things that they added and things that they lost. Like, if
I had a hard time coming up with that list of things they added, and I ended up coming up with the prospect they got in the Rutger McGroarty trade. The most exciting thing that happened this offseason was Rutger McGroarty wasn't going to sign.
Yeah, that's tough. And if you had to add, like, if you had to subtract Hellebuyck and or Scheifele, like, just relegate this team.
When
Move
you're
them
already
somewhere
losing
else.
Sean Monahan, which
Correct.
is going to be a loss for this team.
I just like, they're not going to be really bad, but even if they're really good, you can't really buy stock into it because you can't trust them.
Now the question is, we've been good about hyperbole watch. Are we too down on the Winnipeg Jets? They have the 16th best odds to win the Stanley Cup, which is right in the middle of the NHL. And that gets a fucking come on from me. Will you give that a fucking come on, or will you give that a sounds right?
Fucking come on in terms of like you should think they should be way higher.
Like, we're getting carried away with saying they are like dead middle of the NHL. Respectfully, fucking come on. They're better than
I don't know
dead middle of the NHL.
I don't know if they are.
A little high, like maybe like a 10th or something
Yeah,
around
like,
there.
give me 12th.
16th,
No,
15th.
10th is way too high. Like, there are definitely.
I mean,
Predators
I said that would have
territory.
to think. Well, I'd have to think about it a little more, but like,
I think that I can go through the standings and give you like 15 teams I think are better than the Winnipeg Jets.
All right, I'm going to give you the teams between 10th and 16th. So 10th, famously, are the Nashville Predators at 1,600. After that, Tampa Bay Lightning at plus 1,700. You cool? Oh, Sean.
Oh my God! Look at this guy.
Have we used this yet?
no, we had it for the Netters boys, and we never actually used it.
Sean just busting his ding out. Amazing. Good job.
Wait a second here. Okay, all right. So I was reading.
It's
okay.
The top row, yeah. Read left to right, row by row. Like
Okay, got it.
Left to right, Pete. Have you ever seen the movie poster for Chicago? Duh.
Have you ever read an English sentence?
Oh, yeah, or just reading. No, well, famously, the Chicago movie poster, you remember what I'm talking about? Catherine Zeta-Jones and who's the other person in Chicago? Renee
Gere?
Zellweger.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Gere ended up having the middle of the poster. Their representatives were arguing over who gets first billing on the poster. So what they agreed with was one of them would be bottom left, the other one would be top right.
Where does the I go first?
What's that?
So where does the eye go
Exactly.
first?
And then Richard Gere got the middle, which I loved. The solution ended up being like, the man will win. Anyway, proceed. Throw those back up there, Sean. Thank you. Bless you.
Crazy to me is that Winnipeg is behind the Kings and the Wild.
No, Kings absolutely fine with. Wild doesn't really make sense to me whatsoever. Crazy that Vancouver's that low, even though they did lose a bunch. Like, it's...
The Kings and the Wild are the only two teams ahead of them where I'm like, they should at least be even.
I'll note that that at 16th, it would seem the Jets are at the very tail end. And if you're listening, I'm sorry. You please check this out on YouTube. Sean, you're nodding. You know that the Jets are at the very tail end of the group of teams Vegas thinks could win the Stanley Cup, because from there it drops off from plus 2,600, and the team that is right in front of the Jets, the Wild, is at plus 2,500. So it's like 2,300, 2,300, 2,500, Jets at 2,600, and then it's the Senators at plus 3,600, and the Islanders at plus 4,400. So it drops off precipitously. I'll just say, I guess I can wrap my head around it more when they're saying we have the Jets at the end of the group we think can win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and I would only say like they strongly deserve to be over one team that's in front of them, and that's the Minnesota Wild.
I don't know. I'd have to know.
Seems a little, and I know this is not what we're talking about, a little disrespectful to the New York Islanders? Like that they're not even in that top half of the group?
Yes,
that
that's
top
fair.
half?
Yeah, I think that the Islanders and Jets should be in the same neighborhood.
Kind of.
Sabres. Yeah, a little disrespect for the Sabres. A little disrespect for the Flyers.
So, I mean, like, overall, I don't think that the Jets are being like, disrespected too much.
Keep that up. Biggest disrespect on that screen, though. Like, but they're not winning the Cup, so it is fine. Utah at plus 7,500. I'm just mad at the teams that are in front of Utah. Although these are all teams that are not going to win the Stanley Cup.
Hey, thanks for watching the channel.
We appreciate everybody who checks out our stuff, but 80% of our viewers are not actually subscribed to this page, so if you could smash that subscribe button, it would go a very long way for us.
The more subscriptions we have, the more visibility we get from YouTube, which allows us to do more.
So press that button. Thank you. I'd like to note, so they have cap space. If they want to add at the deadline, they have $5.7 million of cap space. But a player I would like to bring up is I always like discussing those young players who are centers coming up, get to the NHL at a young age, play on the wing, kind of cut their teeth a little bit. Cole Perfetti took a big step forward last season, 19 goals in 71 games. He's on that list of highly drafted young guys like that where I say, at what point do you move them to center, or do you want to move them to center? Because if they do make him a 2C,
Look at this guy.
I like them a lot more. Thank you.
2C, nice.
I like them a lot more if he's their second line center instead of like Nemestikov or something.
Yeah, I also think that like the top six here is not the problem. It's definitely not the problem. Like even their top nine,
Yeah, I was gonna
pretty
say.
good. Forward group as a whole, like pretty good. It's not that they don't have a good team. It's just that we've seen this before many times.
Well, it's not that they don't have a good team. It's that they don't have the most exciting team in the world. And when you get to the playoffs on being tied with Florida for the best goals against in the NHL, and then you cannot defend or stop the puck to save your life, then we're going to start ascribing a whole lot of intangible failures to you, and people will lose interest and excitement in a real hurry. So I get why people are down on this team, but I'll just say, if you're down on them, you might be a little too down on them.
But here's also something that we haven't mentioned yet. So last year, you just said that they were like a really good defensive team, one of the best defensive teams in the league. That was after they brought in Rick Bowness, who was hired to really change the way that they played. Because before Rick Bowness came in, they were a highly offensive team that constantly bled high danger chances and were saved by Connor Hellebuyck. They kind of flipped that script on its head with Rick Bowness. Rick Bowness is gone. He retired. Scott Arniel now coaches this team. Does Scott Arniel pick up where Rick Bowness left off, or does it become somewhere in the middle? Do they get back to playing like push it forward and hope Hellebuyck saves you on the back end? That is not a recipe for winning a Stanley Cup. Not that what Rick Bowness had last year obviously was either, but I could I could put more faith and stock into them if they keep that defensive structure that Bones had.
Second in the Central last year. You going higher or lower with them this
Lower.
year? Maybe they're
Central's better though.
maybe they're that good regular season team again though.
We all silly like the mayor.